what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, I would like to start the show off today saying happy birthday to Joe Biden. I'm wearing my Joe shirt that I purchased in D.C. when I was there on a trip. And it's a good birthday for him. He's, in the last 24 hours, he has been responsible for not only taking care of his colon health, as many men his age and our age and up, John, and I should be looking into.
I haven't done it yet. Have you done it?
I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. I will say, though, that the doctor does know me by a nickname at this point, and at this point everything's fine. But not only did he do that, which we applaud, and we're glad that people recognize the value of that thing, but he also handed over presidential power to the first woman in American history to hold the power of president.
Oh, yay. While he was under general?
That's right. I
love it.
Joe Biden trusted Kamala Harris and everyone in his cabinet enough to actually do something that George W. Bush did twice, handed over power to Cheney twice. Now, think about the trust exercise that is. Like, I think Reagan did it once, but George W. Bush was like, he went back in for seconds. And
well, arguably wasn't Cheney just in charge the whole time?
Yeah, well, I think that's the irony of it. That was what he really gave away, was the pretense that he was in charge of the government. Yeah, it must have been a great relief actually to him. Yeah, like now I get to stop pretending to be president for like 45 minutes. It's the sweetest sleep I ever had.
I just need a nap.
I just needed a nap. So that in and of itself, the fact that, and by the way, if anything could give you sort of the faith to allow that nap to come upon you in this particular circumstance, knowing that if something, God forbid, would go sideways, you were responsible for the greatest leap forward in American infrastructure since the highway bill, and you got through the greatest infrastructure, the greatest rescue package in American history in dealing with, COVID specifically and the ancillary financial aspects of it, which, by the way, the greatest effect of that particular rescue package and some of the other stuff that we've had to do in the last year is indeed inflation, is indeed a 1.7% rise over normal of inflation if you take out how deeply the prices went in a hole last year when no one was going anywhere or doing anything to what they are now. And if you took gas and cars out of the pricing index, it drops to incredibly normal numbers and shocks the crap out of everybody that the American economy is doing so well by comparison. Also, the big fear about gas prices, we'll talk about this today, is that ultimately they're going to get to a price where electric cars start to look good to people who have been hating on the concept for a very long time. And that having an infrastructure bill that provides thousands of charging stations across the nation, which wonderfully rhymes, and I think at some point should belong in an updated version of Living in America, if anybody feels like
Oh my God.
Yeah. Electric
We
stations.
reference Rocky in almost every show.
I try. It's for my girlfriend. She's a huge Rocky fan, and with good reason. So having going under anesthesia, being able to trust, what a nutty concept. Being able to trust your vice president to not go mad with that power and walk towards you with a pillow or whatever bizarre fantasy Trump had about why he would not go under, because of Pence. I don't know, many people may know this, but Trump famously stayed awake during his colonoscopy because he didn't want to sign over control of the government to Mike Pence for even moments. Yeah. So he was willing to go through it. Now, it may have been that. It may have been that he was just looking forward to it. And I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. You know what I mean? To each their own. You know what I mean? And I think that if Trump needs to tell us something, we're all here to listen. What? Somebody
Using your whole fist there, Doc?
Momet, yeah. I feel like we require an entire rundown of those particular.
Just every fletch drop you've got.
River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
There you go.
Whew. Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Yeah, they're a little out of order, but you get the point. There is a yes, right. Everybody in the chat, no kink shaming at all. So Trump, if you need to, yeah, absolutely. If you need to come out dressed as a gimp and finally maybe release some of the rage and anger that you're carrying around, good for you. You know what I mean? Maybe you and Lindsay can just open up to your realities, and maybe that tension being removed from you might make you a better person. I'm just saying, we'll still judge you on all the other stuff. Hal Vickery says, get your colonoscopy if you're of that age. My first one probably saved my life. Thank you, Hal Vickery, for that wonderful super chat and the fantastic advice. Absolutely. And I will stay awake during the whole thing and more than likely live stream it. But the important thing is that the Build Back Better bill also passed that morning. The morning he was going in, the day before his birthday, Build Back Better passed the House. It's going to the Senate. It will go through committee, and it will be wrangled, and there'll be a bunch of stuff stripped out of it, and there'll be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and some stuff will get added in, but ultimately it will lay the groundwork for a lot of programs that the American people, through the normal function of democratic taxation, will decide that their tax dollars, in an effort to preserve freedom and save their fellow citizens from the threats they actually face, not that they fantastically face in some sort of mythical realm of battle that lays ahead, will decide that's where their tax dollars should go, and that they should ultimately be directed in that sense. Now, of course, the right will call that socialism. They'll call that communism. They'll go for the communism part of it, because if you take tax dollars from the American people and you put them where the American people want them to go to solve problems that the American people on their own, as bootstrappy as they might be, cannot possibly expect to handle. In the same way that we have a military, because none of us individually are like, the Chinese are going to invade. Everybody get in your own rowboat if you care and start rowing towards the islands, right?
If you care.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? That's why we have a military. In the same way, cancer, infectious disease, that's why we have a CDC and an NIH. Think of it as military spending against the world's smallest yet most violent adversary, meaning, infectious disease and diseases of encroachment,
which is actually going to be the title of your autobiography, isn't it? The smallest, most violent adversary?
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to have a little tiny picture of me on the front and just a big blue cover. I'm going to be shrunk down on it, and it'll come with a magnifying glass, and I'll just have, but, exactly, Bob in our chat room, Marxism, it's Marxism. Even though, Marx was a horrifying racist and came up with his plans when there were less than 1 billion people on Earth and are completely useless in a modern society where a teenager can become a millionaire because of an app store. Think about the workers must seize the means of production from this kid tapping on his keyboard and using his phone as a computer. I'm just saying, maybe time for an update in our economic viewpoint, as crypto mining, can require solar panels, but no human beings. It might be time to talk about things as if we live in 2021, Yeah, maybe not. But anyways, they'll continue to use this as a cudgel, because God forbid the American people decide that our tax dollars might be better used making sure that elderly people, for example, who are on the edge of having to decide occasionally between cat food and medicine, eating cat food themselves, by the way, and their pills for the week, when they're at the edge of deciding that maybe, just maybe, the rest of us might want them to have an up-to-date eyeglasses prescription or hearing aids, so that as we're driving to work, we don't have to worry about them careening through a red light that they thought was orange, and or not being able to read signs that say this exit closed as they fly off an unfinished highway into an apartment building. You know what I mean? Like, it maybe, just maybe, kind of like educating children so that we have an educated workforce, so that as we have more advanced businesses in this country, we have an educated workforce to draw from. Maybe in the same zone as those things, we just don't want old people dying in their homes of abject poverty like we had before Social Security. That, people, because it has the word social in it, because it has to do with the interpersonal relationships, of the fact that some families don't exist to take care of their elderly, that perhaps as Americans, taking care of those folks because America means something, and in that pursuit of happiness, you have sort of a floor that you can count on, is not, indeed communism or Marxism or socialism or anything, but simply us as Americans going, we have values, and we don't want anyone among us to fall below that. Yeah, $35 a month maximum for insulin is also in there, Eli is mentioning. Again, so happy birthday to President Joe Biden, who, by the way, is still president and has been presidenting since January 20th, when he became officially the president, as he won the election fairly last year and has been presidenting.
Whatever.
Is it wrong to rub salt in the wounds? So,
Yeah, exactly.
Look, if they didn't pick the scab, it wouldn't be infected. That's all I'm saying. So we got to take a break. There's a lot to celebrate this week, and no one is seeing it. No one, apparently, because of something that happened yesterday that I'm not going to talk about because I already talked about it on my live stream. And I don't believe it deserves more conversation. I do not. So we're going to talk about stuff that, I'm sorry, it won't make you as angry, but it might do the worst thing that someone can do. Give you hope. We'll be back. Oh, no, I sent it there.
It's time! It's time!
Thanks, guys.
Guess who's back again.
Hal Sparks.
That's true.
Tell a friend.
You want to get sued?
So yeah, Hal Sparks is back, y'all.
I'm Mark.
Very low.
I'm Bobby.
The host of Where Are They Now? Now let's get back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
How
That's
far
the most-
away are they from their microphones?
I don't know, but I know that they're not far from the South Side. That's what I know about that. That's amazing.
They're on the south side, yelling
They're both
into a
North Siders,
laptop on
too.
the other side of the
They
rec
are?
room.
Really?
Yeah, they're North
both North
Siders.
Side? Oh my God. Posers.
Poser
This
North
is
Siders,
terrible.
yeah.
Like, how did that accent start seeping northward? We must build that wall. Build that wall.
Probably the same way their southern accents in Kankakee.
Oh, or bumper stickers that say the South will rise again in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Get out of here. I man, the South, what do you have a Southern accent for? You might as well be in Vancouver at this point.
I woke up and chose ignorance.
Yeah, that's right. As ladies, just, you know what? This ain't even a Southern accent. It's a tree accent. It's just you're around enough trees. This is how you do it. All right, come on.
Tree accent.
It's a tree accent. There's a bunch of, like, obviously wailing and gnashing of teeth going on the right, and it's one of the reasons why they're clinging to the story from yesterday as a ginormous win, and we'll be riding it through the weekend. Tucker Carlson is famously making a documentary about what the thing that led up to the thing that yesterday, the recent unpleasantness. And in that, where's the good news? Where is the upside of such a circumstance? And it is simply that they need to cling to that thing, which was never going to turn out any other way than it was going to turn out, as a win for their side, as if they played a part in shifting sentiment and making that happen, which they absolutely did not. Because everywhere else they look is a nightmare. The infrastructure bill that that Biden passed is not, it has some extraordinary things in it. And it has some stuff that Trump and the Republicans would have never thought of. But the vast majority of it, including broadband, which, if you'll recall, I said was the winning strategy to bring people on board, and indeed was the linchpin for getting all 19 of the senators that voted for it on board. More than any other thing, the funding of high-speed internet across the entire country, edge to edge, creating a situation where the businesses in what they consider flyover country, their own territories, having the same quality of internet as the coasts do, has enormous value for them. So much so that they could buck any Trumpian that was screaming their way, and in the House, a bunch of people could tell Kevin McCarthy to go pound sand and vote for it and get it through. Primarily, that's what did it. The rest of the stuff, these guys have watched bridges and roads rot for years, and it's not their problem as House members or senators if the mayors or the governors, who mostly take the flack for these kind of things, can't repair the interstate highway system that is a federal system through patchwork through certain districts. So they don't care. They just, and it's actually, they've been using it for a long time. The Republicans have always used the fact that our infrastructure is failing as a cudgel against government. The government can't do anything right, while they set upon making sure it doesn't do anything right. So pretending you want infrastructure, but not trusting who is going to do it. So no matter who's in charge, we're not signing off on it. And hence why Trump couldn't get any of the even baseline stuff that's in this infrastructure bill. Ultimately, $800 billion of it is stuff that's been floating in that area for a long time. Like, we know what bridges are ready to fail. We know what roads need fixing. We know where the lead pipes are. We know where we need, clean, water treatment plants and sewage treatment plants and that kind of stuff. We know these things. We know that the electrical grid in the United States needs a smart upgrade. We've known this for a long time, decades. So why was it that Trump, the art of the deal king, the man who knows how to bring in the best people using the best words, turned Infrastructure Week into a joke, and Biden turned him into the punchline? Because that's what happened leading up to Biden's first birthday in office, as Gonzo in our chat mentioned. It says, congratulations to President Biden for his first birthday in office. It's pretty spectacular. Now, we are going to see a couple of things happen over the next 6 months. Leading into Christmas, consumer sentiment is going to be going up because Americans in general, and this is, I saw this thing this morning on as I'm tweeting around, as I am wont to do. It's nice when a guy like me, who was literally ditching math when my math teacher at New Trier brought the entire class down to the student lounge to get me.
Who was that?
I don't remember his name. It was second year. It was my sophomore year. It was before we really hung out. It was like the beginning.
Mr. Bird?
Yeah, it may have been.
Older guy?
Yes.
Yeah, he became my my advisor junior, senior year. Or not advisor, homeroom guy.
Right. Yeah. So he literally, like, I was ditching class. Word came back to him apparently that I was down in the student lounge, and he walked all the other students down to the lounge to get me. And
That's an option.
Yeah. Now, granted, it was apparently because he was aggravated that I don't do homework and was ditching class, but kept testing so well that I was going to pass the class anyways, and it aggravated him. So he was like going to make a scene out of it and whatever. And, I considered it a draw. But considering I'm that dude, right? Considering I'm, in this particular circumstance, mathematically, it was like, I'm not the dude who I would have thought anybody who's an economics reporter would be retweeting things I say about math and the economy, which happen with great regularity when I'm right about these things, which I'm pretty good on. You know what I mean? Like, age might have something to do with it more than anything. Is once you've been around enough and you've seen the
not
train
so
come
old.
Well, you sit at NASCAR, you see the cars come around several times. You're like, I think that one's going to stay in the lead. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it doesn't take a lot of brilliance. Anybody who's been to NASCAR, like, I think 3's got a chance, man. Like, no, he didn't. Like, that's how a lot of arguments happen at those places. Like, yeah. So one of the big conversations we're hearing right now is about infrastructure. And there's this big burn that the Republicans and the right-wing media are using about Stephanie Rule on MSNBC, making, the point that Americans have a lot more money in their accounts. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing a percentage drift in inflation, is because people have more money to spend, and people who are selling things are jacking up the prices to make up for money they didn't make last year because they can. If that money didn't exist, they wouldn't be able to do it. And that's the case that she was making. But what she...
Yeah, and because they can, people are willing to pay because they deem something worth it. They'll cancel themselves out if they're overpriced.
That's right.
And that's like as libertarian as I get.
Yeah. And that is... And that will cause kind of what they're recognizing is in the spring sometime, they're looking at leveling out and becoming more the normal arc, zeroing out basically the difference between 2020 and 2021 because of supply chain issues and those kind of things, once that gets righted. And then a question of, and a very strong possibility of, flooding the market with goods as the Chinese will try to make up for funds that they're losing as manufacturing is leaving, and it has been over the last 2 years, but it accelerated during COVID, that they're going to flood the market with goods, causing deflationary pressure next year, which will affect how the Fed will have to make decisions and will totally upend everything that everybody's saying right now, because something as big as the economy can't wrench left and right. It can't just, keeping it steady is a very difficult job. And if it leaps one direction or the other, overcorrection is a very dangerous thing. And that's the concern. So Market Watch put out this tweet this morning that said average Americans are paying as much, and by the way, average versus median in incomes, that they don't choose those words accidentally. Median income Americans are blah, 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 is totally different than average Americans, and understand, mathematically speaking, are paying as much as $100 to $200 for a single concert ticket, $90 for a bottle of wine, and $5 a gallon for gas. And my response was, boy, as much as is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this sentence. And that's where we are right now with the narrative. Why, happy birthday, Joe Biden, why are Biden's numbers where they are? Is it because of reality? Or is it because of media narrative? Is it because, well, we'll talk about it when we come back. And will it matter at Christmas? Is Biden smiling all the time because he's seen these cars come around the track before? We'll be back.